Hello there. This is Cindy at cindybdesigns.com. Thank you for joining me today. This is the card that we will be making. Very simple stamping, lots of texture, dimension. It's been a long week, so this was all I could come up with. And yeah, so there's my sample card. And that is just jade. I'm going to be featuring the Flowers for Every Season product suite next week. And I hope that you join me. It is phenomenal. I'm going to show you some images right now from that suite, from the annual catalog. And on Monday, I'll have like a really nice blog post about it and good pictures and everything. But this is it's big. It's a huge suite. There's two stamp sets. You have a set of die cuts, a lot of DSP, a punch that we'll be using. That is the jar of flowers. And over on the right is going to be the stamp set that we're using today, Celebrate Sunflowers. I think there's like 2 or 3 different kinds of ribbon that go with that. And then you have like little gems that you can adhere to your cards. But this is a great suite. You got to get it. So those are the materials that I'm using for our card. That was the Celebrate Sunflower stamp set right there. And those are the dies. Those 2 dies right there I'm pointing to, they're on everything, even for the past couple of weeks, if you take a look at how much I've used those dies. And I picked out a piece of DSP from the 6x6 Designer Series paper, but I wanted the same color with that, so I kept it solid. And I'm just going through everything that we're going to be needing. The sequins are from Artistic Blooms, and I don't have that, but I'll be using Mango Melody. So I have my paper scraps I need, linen thread, snail, everything like that. And I'm going to warn you right now, I'm going to bumble my way through this card. It has just been a week. So first mess up here, maybe, okay, this is going to be the mess up. I want that piece of cardstock by 3.5 across by 5 3/8 down. Instead, I cut it down to 5 1/8. So you'll see me in a couple minutes here. I have to take it off screen and then cut it down to make it all match. So I'm putting our new seal adhesive on the back, which is phenomenal. As always, bringing in that Stamparatus tool to help me line everything up. So I want to keep it kind of tight here. I went like 1/8 of an inch up at the top, over on the left, and at the bottom. And this is where I'm like, oh, I cut this too short. Run it over to my paper trimmer real quick, and then bring it back in so it looks all even. So I'm going to speed it up in a couple minutes here, and we are going to move on. I need to get that sentiment down, which was a complete joke on my end, and I had to cut like most of it out. It was so bad. So I got that down. That ended up being 7/8 of an inch long by, maybe 3, I could go, or 3 1/8, 3 short. That's something that you definitely want to wing there, but measurements, everything will be on the blog at Cindy B Designs. What I just showed you there, that is how simple it is to open up our punches. And I'm going to take a punch and get that flower jar done using crumb cake. Bring in the big shot. And for my sample card, I call them sprigs. The sprig that had only one offshoot coming out of it. And with this one, this card, I use the larger one that had 2. So my first little sprig was cut out with regular Whisper White cardstock. Our card base was thick. And now I have Bumblebee, which is the color that our DSP is, that I made this card with. So I die cut out the second one, and now I'm just going to go ahead and get it out of that little piece of scrap paper there. And so far, that is what we are looking like with those 2 elements. I'm bringing the card back in right now, and the punched jar. What I want to do with that is I want to cut, or I am cutting 2 lengths, just kind of winging the length of our linen thread, and then I'm going to wrap it around the back of that and use the natural notches in the bell jar punch to get everything laid down there evenly. Put a Stampin' Dimensional on the back to help secure it. And then another one there, kind of in the center, just to keep things so they don't snag. Once again, I brought in my Stamparatus tool, which is always a must-have. And I always give my customers like 10% off when they want this because it is such an invaluable tool. So I'm using the magnet to hold down the jar, tweezers to help me with my knot, and you know how I am with bows. Had to cut the ugly part out of that because it was like an easy 2 minutes. So now I'm straightening everything up, the tails, the tops of it. I'm going to set it aside and put a block on top of it while I'm still messing with it just to make sure that I get everything the way that I want it to. So hopefully, moving on now, again, Stamparatus tool. I'm taking a magnet to hold down my cardstock, peeling the dimensionals off the back of our little jar there. And that's like going about maybe a little over a quarter of the way up. And the jar is balanced in between the white space and the DSP. And I'm taking our seal, and towards the right side of the sentiment, I'm putting that on there, and then 2 Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. And I'm going to adhere it in kind of, not in a funky way, but how I put this card together was really funky and what most people wouldn't consider normal, but I winged a lot of it. So I wanted to use that center Stampin' Dimensional you saw me put on the back to help anchor my little sprigs there. So that's why I didn't peel off the backing paper. So I have the Whisper White on the left, the Bumblebee on the right, move, the cardstock all the way over to that L section on the right just to get everything secured and what I needed. That was probably not, it wasn't a good idea, but I'm taking like a little bit of Tombow Mono just to get the stems secured, but where you can still like lift them up a little bit just to get that dimension to it. And that I will definitely end up putting a block on to let it set up a little bit. And then I'm taking off the back of the dimensionals there, and I'm going to lay it down. And I made sure that my magnet, my sentiment was straight by using the line in that grid mat there too. And now we are down to, getting to the home stretch here. Again, simple stamping, one stamp. And I'm laying down the Mango Melody sequins. They already have adhesive on the back, so you don't have to mess with that or anything. And there's 5 of them for the rule of odds. And my die cuts, they've been getting a lot of attention lately. And there we go. So very, very simple card to do. Just change out your DSP and sentiment if you want to make it masculine, feminine, birthday card, anything. And they still kind of pack a punch, I think. So thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And I hope that you are with me next week to, unpack this suite a lot more. So have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday.